Fairtrade standards, they're independently verified and set with the producers themselves, so they are standards around environmental health of the area, around the way that we work with not having pesticides, not having children in the fields, those kinds of things. Direct support to farmers and workers in terms of training, finance, helping productivity, helping get more out of the fields and get more out of the crops. Alliances and networks in terms of awareness raising and campaigning that we do here, both with business and with government and with all different levels to make sure that people understand what fair trade is and why it's so important. And building markets, we need to sell more. That's something that our commercial team are constantly doing, is working with everyone from big supermarkets to small independents to make sure that the range and breadth of fair trade is understood. It's not just tea and coffee. There are 4,500 and counting different fair trade products that we can choose to buy. For producers, the impact is fourfold in terms of the economic, the environmental, the social, and finally the empowerment of their work and what they're doing. And I'll talk you through that shortly. So 4 in 5 consumers recognise the fair trade mark and 9 in 10 people trust it. So it's one of those things that you see and you immediately recognise, but not everyone understands the level underneath that, and that's why campaigners are so important, because they're able to explain it gives a fair deal, the premium on top, which enables them to spend it on these different areas of their lives. And by having producers come and visit as well, we kind of build that trust and that engagement where you are able to say, well, I met Charles, or I met Henry, or I met whoever that came over and visited and told us about what impact fair trade's having on their community. So we have a really strong grassroots movement. I just have some pictures here. We have over 600, I think 612 fair trade towns now, and that's everywhere. So many fair trade towns have now existed that people are starting to scale up. So lots of different counties are now working towards or have achieved fair trade status. So Fairtrade London is made up of multiple different boroughs that come together and campaign across London. The South West, as an entire region, does some fantastic campaigning, has a regional-wide ambassadors network of people that go around and talk to people about fair trade, has business awards as well, which are really fantastic. So it's about working within your community and then starting to kind of take that up as well and kind of see what you can do with the council in terms of procurement. You might be able to influence your local council, but then if you work together as a county, what you can do with your county in that procurement is absolutely incredible. So I'll go back slightly and talk about the different areas that we work on with producers and what that means in terms of social, economic and environmental standards. And I have some pictures of what they mean. So in terms of the social standards, the picture at the top, his name is Jose Cruz. These are all about Nicaraguan coffee farmers, as an example. I can probably send this to Matthew afterwards if anyone wants to see it and read it properly, because there's more detail and everything there. So Jose invested in another crop, which is important to give income when not harvesting coffee. So coffee is his cash crop, and then he has something else growing because he's been able to invest that premium to grow something else. So he feeds his family, as well as something that grows more quickly that he's constantly selling locally. So coffee is his main source of income, but then he constantly has something coming throughout the year. In terms of environmental projects, Sonia is Milton here, and there's an environmental project invested in which provides natural organic fertiliser from the region rather than buying in expensive chemicals from outside. So it means that the crop is now organic, everything is local, you're kind of working with other local people to make that fertiliser rather than buying it from these big agrochemical companies. And then in terms of economic standards, Jose is economic, and then in terms of social, there's a water facility built in their community for all farmers in the region. So they didn't have access to water previously, and there's a really big water facility now which everyone can access. It's for kids, it's for adults, it's for farmers, it's for anyone. So fair trade affects the community as a whole, not just the people who are farmers and workers. So then in terms of talking a little bit about why fair trade is impactful in our communities, I'll talk about schools, places of worship and towns and businesses finally. So fair trade values in schools, I think there are almost 1,500 schools which have achieved fair trade status now, and there are 3 different levels of that. There's fair aware, fair active and fair achiever. So each step up, you do a little bit more. So by the very top you have a group of kids and teachers that are working together to shout about Fairtrade in your school and in your community, whereas the very lowest level is about starting to engage with Fairtrade, having lessons about it, having assemblies about it, learning a little bit more. And in terms of what kind of values that brings to kids and the community, it's about teaching global citizenship, having that kind of community engagement when you do events together. There have been fantastic events where the kids that are coming today are going to be wonderful. All of that, the children that are understanding it, that are the next generation of Fairtrade, and are going to take that forward and be the next generation of consumers and have that incredible understanding of what it means to be a global citizen and understanding their consumer power as well, to be kind of critical about what they buy and what they choose to spend their money on is really important. And if you want to know more, you can go to fairtrade.org.uk/schools. I have some leaflets at the back as well. Fairtrade values in churches and places of worship are historically really important. Churches were some of the main bodies that came together to produce the Fairtrade Foundation 21 years ago, and still play a really huge role in towns' engagement, in schools' engagement, in going out there and spreading the word about Fairtrade. But increasingly, mosques and other places of worship, because justice, fairness and equality are such central tenets of so many religions, it's a really important way of being able to come together and celebrate Fairtrade, whether it's through holding a trade craft stall, whether it's through having an event or some kind of sermon or other moment where everyone comes together and thinks and discusses Fairtrade together. And there are multiple ways to engage with Fairtrade as a church as well, in terms of becoming a Fairtrade place of worship, holding events, doing lots of different things in the community. So Fairtrade values in business are about something a little bit more. So there are so many different ways that you can be a business and support Fairtrade, from 100% Fairtrade social enterprises all the way up to being a multinational conglomerate and having different individual products. So essentially, Fairtrade's about differentiation and creating value and saying our products are different, they mean more, and we can prove that they have an impact on the people at the bottom end of the supply chain that are often squeezed and aren't doing as well. It appeals to shoppers, so obviously this audience, people seek out Fairtrade and they want to purchase it, but not everyone understands what it means. So as I said, we have such great awareness of the mark, but then we need to take that forward and explain to people what it is and why it's so important. And then knowledge of origin as well as quality. So we've come a long way from the time when people used to drink that dusty old coffee that wasn't very pleasant, and now we have hundreds of different kinds, and it's amazing. And there's often a queue at the coffee machine at work because we have a lovely Fairtrade coffee machine that's fighting in the queue to get there first. And there are multiple ways for businesses of all different kinds to engage with Fairtrade as well. So there's a new scheme called Workplaces of World Changers, and that can be you as a retailer or as a, if you're a hairdresser or a call centre or a factory. If you serve Fairtrade tea, coffee and sugar to your employees and you talk a little bit about Fairtrade and why it's important, you can join the Workplaces of World Changers scheme. And it's a really fantastic way to shout about why what you're doing as a business is a little bit different, and that you care about not only your employees but about people at the other end of the supply chain as well. So that's something that we are encouraging towns to take to their local businesses, because I do find that towns often come to me and say we're finding it difficult to engage with our local workplaces or our local retailers if they don't sell that much Fairtrade. And this is an alternative way. If your hairdresser wants to serve Fairtrade to their employees as well as the people who come and have their hair cut, that's a fantastic way of bringing a bit more Fairtrade, talking about it, putting up a poster, getting that bit more awareness in people's minds. There are collaborations with local Fairtrade town groups. There have been some fantastic networking events organised in places from Leighton Linslade all the way up to Scotland, where local businesses come together and talk about how and why they support Fairtrade and how they can do a little bit more. And holding other exciting events as well, so something a bit more fun, something that engages the community. It's a really lovely way of bringing people together. So there are more resources as well if you want to go to Fairtrade/4business, but you can search them on the website and that's all fine. I also wanted to talk to you very briefly about our new Show Your Hand campaign. So the Sustainable Development Goals are new tools for poverty reduction that are being brought in to replace the Millennium Development Goals. And David Cameron has been influential in creating these and making them happen. So when they get implemented, we want to make sure that they directly benefit and support smallholder farmers and workers, because at the moment, trade doesn't work for these people. You have development policy in one hand and you have trade policy in the other that directly takes away what they've been giving. So what we want to do is encourage David Cameron and the Sustainable Development Goals to be implemented properly within British law. So I have an example of our campaign pack, which would have been sent to all of our key contacts. Oh, and the town crier was there too. And this is the town crier which we send quarterly to all the key contacts that we have for our Fairtrade towns as well. So if you'd like to get involved with the Show Your Hand campaign and get in touch with your local MP and talk about why Fairtrade is so important in your community, that it is a local issue as well as a global issue, then that would be fantastic and I can talk to you more about that. So hopefully I've helped. I've completely forgotten about my slides as well. Hopefully I've helped you understand a little bit more about why Fairtrade is unique and what it does within the community, but if anyone has any questions now or later, then I'll be around until 4:30 today, so please do just come and chat to me. Thank you.